Hey everyone, good evening, it's Jay.
I was 8 years old, 7 or 8, and I just remember, finding my cousin's camera, and I literally just used it every day. I would record my daily existence, and I would play it back at the end of the day. No editing, of course. I would just sit there, I'd plug in the 3 prongs into the old TV, and I would just watch it back. And I was fascinated to see how my daily experience translated on the screen. As a 12-year-old, I kind of realized this needs to be what I do every day. And it kind of became a bit of a survival mode and mechanism of trying to figure out how to make sure this is cemented into my life. So I started to look into schools, and I was looking at places like USC Film School as a 12-year-old and thinking how do I work backwards to get somewhere like that? How do I work backwards to get somewhere like there? And what I kind of found was an art school in Orange County to kind of be that opportunity. I was a nerd. I was very technical. I wore button-down shirts and kind of khakis and jeans. And suddenly I see these kids wearing, Supreme and just different fashion brands. And there was this thing that was going on where hip hop, skate culture, and high fashion, Japanese, culture and European culture, Antwerp, Belgium, the Big Six, all that kind of stuff was coming together at once. And I started to kind of connect with these kids, and one of them had a pair of Yeezys. And I remember that kind of being the beginning of my understanding of who Kanye is within culture. And we ditched class one day and we went to the AMC theaters where he was doing a live stream from the Madison Square Garden, where it was a listening event for The Life of Pablo and also a presentation of Yeezy Season 3. And it was at that moment that I saw not just the music and the artist, but also the cultural moment that was. Everyone from Naomi Campbell to a Lucas Sabat. And again, it was this democratization of the industry and the accessibility and just an understanding of who are the players, and I was very just infatuated with the whole kind of dynamic of that and how Kanye was leading that and was at the center of that. And that was my aha moment of thinking, okay, this is the direction I want to go with my documentary. I found myself naturally integrating myself with a lot of the subcultures that Kanye himself would pull from and source talent. And they became my mentors, they became my friends. And I found myself in the last 2 years of high school, particularly my senior year, really at one point not even really going to class. I was in LA connecting with other artists, musicians, producers, designers, and just really kind of learning and understanding the game of design and how in a lot of ways it was a sport. And I organically kind of assimilated myself into this to the point where I would already be in class before I even graduated, and I was talking to people and they'd be oh, well, I'm actually with Kanye in Malibu, we're working with Rick Rubin. And it was kind of this natural progression. And then, me knowing that Kanye always had someone filming him, I was it would be blessed for that to be me.
What is this?
The idea of a base.
Okay. This is a bit?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Could you imagine? It's pretty on.
So you're in open arms, or I don't know. It's hard to tell.
They invited me because he was doing an event. He was doing 4 events, concerts and some screenings. And that's basically how I started. It was actually on a night vision camera, and it was a high 8 and it was glued to my eye. And I remember it being so fascinating because I had no peripheral vision and I just would follow Ye around, this event. And I remember within the first 10 minutes, I'm tracking him, and it's I'm living through the screen, and he gets excited. He sees someone, he approaches him, and I do a whip pan, and suddenly it's Elon Musk. And the thing that I remember so distinctly was it was in that moment that I realized the reality distortion field of Ye, in the sense that no one really questioned the fact that this person had someone filming them. And that not only occurred because this was an event, and maybe event videographers and photographers are common, it then translated even into the office later down the road. I mean, it was always like a thing to not turn the camera off. I remember one time he was getting his teeth cleaned, and I was in the car, and then the security came out and got me, and he's like, hey, like, keep rolling, just keep rolling unless I say so. And really, he never told me to stop rolling. And I think it was just a part of our synergy. I don't know exactly where the trust came from, because again, I can't speak for him, but I think it was just a thing that we both knew we were doing for the right reasons, which was to tell a story and to follow it no matter what. And I did feel like, Hunter S. Thompson or something in that way.
We treat everybody that come in like family, and you're gonna sell us out. Like, that's not, man. We look up to you, we love you. Why? What you got against us?
I mean, I do have some things against SNL.
That's cool, but I mean, airing it out like that without letting us be able to reply is kind of foul.
I wasn't thinking about this immediately becoming anything. I was actually just very grateful to be there. And because of that, I felt like I was always trying to find a way to make myself kind of invisible. And I think that kind of natural progression is what created a good momentum and synergy, which is what resulted in some of the later access and ability to kind of capture moments without, over inserting myself in the room, but still like making sure there's a language that's developing as well, cinematically. The objectivity mixed with the fact that I was filming for 15 to 18 hours a day sometimes, and really sleeping maybe 2 to 3 hours a night. It was also so much of me technically making sure that I continued to keep rolling. Like there were literal times where my hand would fall asleep and I would doze off. I had to sometimes wear sunglasses and prop myself up and like take a nap and make sure, you know what I mean? Like it really became that at times. The camera rolls at 8 and, it goes until midnight, 1, 2 a.m. And so much was happening in such a compact fashion that I didn't even really stop recording. My iPhone video files would literally be like 8 hours long. I mean, in the film, he says like, we need to show all of who we are, both dark and the light. And at times, like we would have kind of conversations about this being like an aviator or like There Will Be Blood. And like, we always kind of knew that this was about the realities of genius, the realities of America, the realities of celebrity, the realities of fame. So I kind of just utilized those elements as some of my guiding principles.
Give Daddy a hug.
The best thing about being an artist is just like, and being bipolar is anything you do and say, it's an art piece.
Overall, the film, with it being called In Whose Name, is really about confronting idolatry, both in the sense of culture and also just in the sense of the politics and all the figures that we kind of address in the film. And ultimately, the film for me even is like a Rorschach test, and I think it's a way to start a conversation. I remember being 7 years old when I'm like first picking up a camera, and like in between American Idol or whatever I may have been watching or was playing in the house, you would see news clips of the Taylor Swift moment. And I didn't know who he was, obviously, as a 7-year-old. But to your point, it's like interesting how someone like him has had so many touch points throughout, cultural history. That's why I really think the film, that's why it says it's dedicated to America, whatever that is, that Jack Kerouac quote, because it's like a conversation about the first quarter of the 21st century.
God, I would rather be dead, not in jail, because I'd rather be dead than to be on medication. No one from the family has taken any responsibility for my hospital visit, but if we were to go online, that's 50% of what people say at least. Or maybe, am I lying?
It doesn't matter.
Am I lying? It do matter! It does matter! It does matter!
And I think so much was always happening. He wasn't consciously thinking about the edit. He would just ask how it was going. And then eventually I said, okay, I'm done filming. Now it's time for me to go edit this film. So we come back to the chateau, we're staying here, and we just happen to be downstairs and we run into him. And it's been, a year and a half or so since I've been editing. Maybe a year and 8 months. And we sat down and we watched it, and he said that it was deep and it was like looking back on his life like he was dead. So I think, for the both of us, it was kind of like looking through a scrapbook almost of our shared experience and life. Emotionally, it meant a lot. It meant a lot because I also respect him so much as a creative. And, to be able to also show my work to someone that I learned so much from creatively by observing them make albums and shoes and work with architects, it was kind of special in that way. And I mean, we just really honestly sat there in silence for a moment, just like wow, like that was quite the journey.
Always didn't fit in and started to do it on purpose. Was I really being different and just being different on the surface? Was rapping really method acting, connected to a bigger purpose, seeing to destroy everything I built on the pursuit of perfect? Happiness is accepting everything won't be perfect, and the worst parts of this movie called life gonna be worth it. When it's act phony, I did this to me. When it's backstabby, I directed that movie. All the sizes in front of you, just matter what you want to do.
Good morning. This is Morning Sky. I'm your host, Sky. What you just saw was a clip from the documentary In Whose Name by director Nico Ballesteros. He was just giving his rundown of his life and how his connections came to be with Ye on his project. I didn't want to talk about Ye. I'm still not going to really talk about Ye. I'm going to talk about the director more so. I think it's amazing how his journey is amazing. How he was able to overcome being in school. He was a truant, this is going back to August Wilson, he's a truant, not going to school, not never graduating. I don't know if he graduated. I didn't see that. But he was just enamored by camera work and directing and photographing and creating. I think that's a healthy thing. I've never missed a day of school with beyond, a funeral or something like that. I've never been sick for school. I never skipped out on any classes. I was a C student. It wasn't like I was an A student, like making sure I got every lesson. There were people that probably were skipping out of school and still got A's. I got A's, D's, and F's. And so it equated out to be a C. So that's my story. But Nico, he has a vision, and the film seems like it's like surrealistic and kind of like detached a bit. And then it shows, those moments that Ye seems like he like is either aware of the camera or not even caring about where the camera is. When he's yelling at Kris Jenner, when he's, with his kids, when he's in the makeup as I guess some kind of tiger or something like that, or some kind of cat. It's all him. It's all reality. It's all true. And that's what makes it, very interesting, because he has so many, like Nico touched on how many cultural but let me start that over. God damn. Nico touched on how many touchstones Ye had in the media. From, his tantrums at the American Music Awards, the Grammys, telling George Bush that he doesn't care about black people, taking the mic from Taylor Swift, marrying Kim Kardashian, divorcing Kim Kardashian, being friends with Elon Musk, going up to Donald Trump and wearing the MAGA hat. It just all coalesces into one big, mixture of, all these elements that are part of his reality. Son of the Sun 90, salute to you, sir. Good morning. Ye really was on the road at being more than successful than Jay. Facts. I think in a lot of ways he really was. I mean, depending on how you look at it, Ye was more of his Ye was more adept at making sure the albums had a huge rollout. Like I remember Yeezy with the videos of the along the walls. You remember those? He would have in different cities in Prague and Paris, and maybe not in Paris, but I think definitely Prague and other places, New York City, I think, allegedly. Can't remember. But he put up those images on the walls, for the Yeezy release. I mean, he just had. If you just look at his, when you had the CD in your hand, you had the actual, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy album, and it opened like a book. It opened like it was like all these illustrations and all the credits and everything all coalesced. I think all the lyrics were on the College Dropout. If you look at those CDs, those physical CDs, Son of Sun 90 says Kim was the cause of his demise. I think that's true too. You have to remember, no fashion houses wanted anything to do with her. Kim was nasty work. Well, she's a billionaire, so you have to give her credit. She has the skims, and I was told the same thing. Keep your name in the brand. That's why I started Scholarized, because I was gonna have a brand, online as Scholarized. Now I was like, I might as well just do Sky Saunders for YouTube and have Skylar Saunders go part of that as well. Another mistake, he let Jay-Z trick him into thinking they were friends. Yes, facts. It's not like Tata. It's not like Memphis Bleak. Those are Jay-Z's friends. They grew up together. They did certain activities together, allegedly. I can't divulge on too much, but Ye and Jay were not friends. Even on Watch the Throne, I mean, he's playing lip service. Pause. When he says "run up on Yeezy the wrong way, I might mark you." Like that was just for advancing his quotes. He really didn't care about Ye. He didn't care about Ye from the beginning. It was Dame Dash who brought Ye to Jay-Z's attention. He said, "You got to get this dude. This dude is crazy. He's a producer. He wants to rap." And Jay was like, "Yeah, okay." And then Ye started making them beats, and he started, they were really like the truth. There, he made, no pun intended, he made the truth for Beanie Siegel. Son 90 says Ye took her to the next level as a brand. She wouldn't be a billionaire without him. Sounds about right. Yeah, I can agree with that. Same thing with Jay. Jay, I want to say Jay, gave the blueprint, no pun intended again, but for Ye to be a billionaire. He was a billionaire for briefly a few months, if not a few years. And he's probably worth 400 million now, 500 million. He's not a pauper right now, but he's not anywhere close to being a billionaire, I don't think. That's how I checked. But with Kim, taking to that level of billionaire status, that was Ye. Informing her, look, you need to do this. You need to, market like this. You need to have different schemes to do this. Include your name. There's a Khalid Muhammad, his son. I think it's Khalid Muhammad. His son is Farah Gray. He had Far Out Foods. You use your name in your product, and she used Kim. Skims. He tricked him into making Watch the Throne a collab. That album wouldn't have been Ye best work if Jay wasn't on it. Ooh. Watch the Throne is the best rap collab of all album. That could be right, but I'm thinking about Red and Meth. I'm thinking about there's a plethora of different albums that have a collaboration I'm not thinking of right now, but Red and Meth come to mind. I think Snoop and Wiz had a collaboration album. That was kind of strong. Not Wiz. Wiz is not old. He's younger than myself. I think he's like in his late 20s, early 30s. I think. I'm talking about our generation. What is our generation? I'm from '88. I'm an '80s baby. I'm a millennial. Are you a millennial too, son of Son 90? But yeah. So the documentary I may or may not see. I'm not clamoring for it. I'm in luxury rap too. That's my favorite genre. Luxury cocaine chic rap. That's my favorite rap. Biggie, Jay-Z, The Lox, Griselda, Rick Ross, all that, getting money, selling dope on the streets, getting that cash. That's what I like. No, the 90s. Okay. Well, you're still millennial though, unless you're born in 99. I think it goes up to 99 or 2000 or something like that for Generation Z. So I think you're within the boundaries of millennial status, but I'm not really looking forward to this documentary. I think I can pretty much get the gist. This man is not taking his drugs like I'm taking my drugs. I love my drugs. They keep me focused. They keep me on point. They finally got the right mixture of tablets to take for somebody who has bipolar disorder himself, me. Yeah, that's what I was saying. When he was yelling at Chris, I was saying he was either not aware of the camera or aware of the camera and didn't care, and he was just snapping at her. He was there. She was at the I guess the kitchen countertop, and he was in the near like a way where the living room and the kitchen met, and he was just snapping on her. He was just spazzing. But like I said, I would only watch this movie to support the director. I'll support Nico. Son 90 says, I think Ye was on white alcohol and weed along with ecstasy. Well, we can't confirm or deny that. We can't make sure of that. We can only speculate. We can say allegedly. We can say possibly. But we cannot confirm or deny those statements. At least I can on my show. But let me see. I'm gonna look for it. It's been out for a week now. I'm gonna look into another one, but I remember that. All right. In your opinion, what was his first big mistake? His first big mistake was not taking his drugs. Are you talking about? I think that's his big mistake. He's made multiple mistakes in the past. The first ones were, losing his temper at the award shows and going off on Taylor Swift. The biggest mistake, like I said, is not taking his drugs. When you stop taking your drugs and you have bipolar disorder, that could lead to a lot of issues. Issue for me. I'm only speaking for myself. I'm going to say taking out for Bey at VMAs. Yeah. Because he thought she was his sister. And I don't think Beyonce likes it. I mean, before even they had the song Ego together. And I didn't think she was really cool with him like that. They're like, okay, we're going to make a song together, but that's about it. We're not brother and sister. We're not cool like that. And not getting therapy when his mom died. Exactly. It's facts. But I think he did get therapy when his mom died. I just don't think it lasted long. I think he got it from the onset, from the beginning. But then he kind of just petered out of it. He just kind of shied away from going to therapy. I'm sure it wasn't because it was too expensive, unless he had like some super high doctor that had advanced training and knowledge of whatever therapeutic functions that could be made for him. Bay and J, fake. He gave both of them songs. Yes, he did. He gave them both songs. Gave him a lot of boost. Gave Blueprint, probably his 5 mic status for the production and Jay's inspiration over the tracks. Then on Blueprint 2, he continued, and Black Album, he said, Kanye, you did it again. You a genius, nigga. So that's just lip service. He didn't really care about him. That's why I say Jay-Z didn't really care about him. He was a ghost designer for fashion houses. I thought you were going to say he had ghost writers for him, because that's just true. You look at the credits. Look at all the credits on Wikipedia for the track list. See how many writers there are for the songs. He was a ghost designer for fashion houses. Yeah. What was he for a house? He was for, when the late, great Virgil, when he was alive, I think he had collaborations with Virgil, but then again, he had something against Virgil or something like that. I could be mistaken. Rock and Power to Virgil Abloh. But I think he had various connections with Virgil before he died, and that's what kept it together. That's what kept it interesting. That's the power of this fame and fortune. It could be used, if you use it wrong, you can end up like Ye. If you use it right, you end up like Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise, or I was gonna say Will Smith. I'll say Denzel Washington, something like that. When's the last time you heard of some kind of story against Denzel Washington's name? You don't hear stories against Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks. There's a few people. Nicole Kidman. Jay-Z will fall hard. Watch what I tell you. He's getting too greedy, and he's using black people's struggle to get wealthier. Well, I think he got beat. Nas might have won the war, the battle, even though they're buddies now. They're more friends than Ye and Jay, I think. And that's another thing that was a point of contention, I think. Dame got mad at Jay because Jay started being cool with Nas. And Nas dissed him. Dame Diddy, Dame Daddy, and Dame Dummy. Oh, I get it. You Biggie and he's Puffy. He lost out on the casino bid for New York City's Hell's Kitchen. He had $250 million up front, but there was like $4.5 billion to invest. But it was all declined. And then in Queens, they granted Nas the ability to construct a casino for $5 billion or something like that. If I got the numbers wrong, you can correct my dumb ass. But I think that's what the case is. I think that's what is reality. I was just reading through different posts regarding that very fact. So Nas won the war. I thought Jay-Z won the battle and the war. I mean, that specific battle and war. Because Jay was about mostly business. He wasn't really talking about back too much like his big lips and wearing aloha shirts and stuff like that. Jay, this is the thing. We got to stop using snakes as a bad kind of connotation. Snakes are cool. Snakes are awesome. Snakes are great. They help create ecosystems. They're just neat to think about. They have, some of them have venom, some of them don't. Some of them can squeeze you to death, but that's part of their nature. There's nothing wrong with a snake inherently. There's nothing evil or awful about snakes. They just are. They just exist. But I know what you mean. Jay's like, and the same thing with a vulture. Vultures do their same thing. They eat up carrion. I'm a capitalist. Capitalism is the government's protection of individual rights and property rights, where all rights are privately owned. That's all capitalism is. That's the basic definition of capitalism. And if you want to go further, it's trading value for value. It's trading based off of justice. That's what capitalism is. I don't think he's a capitalist. If he's wearing T-shirts of Che Guevara, that's not a sign of a capitalist. That's a sign of somebody that's very confused. Jay is confused. He thought that Che Guevara was a hero. He's not. He was a bloody murderer. You don't got no millions, sir. You're a peasant. No, capitalism could be the poorest person. You don't have to have millions or billions or trillions of dollars. All you have to have is private property and it being protected by the government. When all your property is privately owned. That's what a capitalism means. That's properly what capitalism means. Look it up in the Ayn Rand lexicon. But yeah, this Ye documentary, it should be, pretty strong. Pretty strong. It's been out for a week. I don't know what the numbers have done. I don't know if anybody went out to see it. I don't know if it's streaming. I just saw, AP video. That's fair use. Let me use this. Jay don't care about black people. He's very smart. Is he very smart because he doesn't care about black people, or he doesn't care about black people because he's very smart? I'm a little confused. Son of Sun 90. A little confused. Not sure where you're going with that. Dame had like 20 businesses back in the day. This is true. From clothing brands to alcohol and a watch company. Yeah, he had the CEO. He had the Keds. He had Rockaware. He had Rockefeller. He had Armadale. He had all these businesses, and pretty much all of them dried up. This is the life of a businessman. This is the life of a goddamn bosses. Yeah, but those are facts. Those are facts you're spitting. He had a lot on his plate. He admitted he granted to his then wife, Rachel Roy, percentage in her company. Either invested like what, 10 million, 20 million or something like that. I can't remember the exact figure. Don't hold me to the exact figure. But Dame, he invested into his wife's company. Jay seen Dame and wanted that lifestyle. I don't know what you mean. Jay always had money. Jay always had cash. He lived at 560 State Street. I think that's in Manhattan. He always had money. I think he had the lifestyle before Dame in a lot of ways. So this documentary should be a positioning for him for Nico to continue with his living space. Okay, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna see if this works.
Detectives proceeding.
This is from an hour ago. I'm going to see if I can play it.
Cautiously as they investigate the death of a missing California teenager whose body was found in a car belonging to popular singer-songwriter David. How 15-year-old Celeste Rivas died and whether a crime was committed remain crucial questions that sources tell ABC News could take weeks, even months, to answer.
It's an ongoing investigation. We have a lot of resources dedicated to bringing it to a conclusion.
Rivas had been missing for a year and a half. The LA County medical examiner unable to determine a cause of death so far, now waiting on lab tests to come back. Her badly decomposed remains wrapped in plastic discovered inside the trunk of this black Tesla that had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills. The registered owner, David Anthony Burke, who goes by the stage name David. The medical examiner revealing Rivas had a tattoo reading "shh" on her index finger. David has the same one. It's a popular design among performers. Investigators were seen searching the residence he was renting last week and allegedly removing a computer. The 20-year-old musician has not been named as a suspect.
In order for there to be a prosecution, law enforcement has to find some key pieces of information when it comes to a potential homicide. First, they actually need to figure out if it's a homicide or not, and the autopsy report will help give them that. Then they have to figure out the who and the how in order to bring charges.
And while a source close to the investigation says all promotion for David's new album has been put on pause, Billboard reporting streaming of his music has doubled since news of his possible connection to Rivas's death emerged. Some fans now pointing out disturbing images seen in his music videos like One More Dance, which shows a bloody David and a body being placed in a trunk.
After watching you go.
Recently, mourners gathered at a vigil for the California teen, authorities returning her body to her family this week.
Now, sources telling us they have the evidence that they need from her body. And while they wait on those lab results, again, the promotion for David's new album has stopped and the U.S. portion of his tour has been canceled. Guys.
Kana, thank you.
All right, let me see what I can do here.
The investigation into singer David has intensified after the body of a teenager was discovered in a Tesla that has been linked to him. From canceled tours to social media revelations, new developments are raising serious questions about their supposed relationship. And
okay, so David, it's not looking pretty for him. It's not looking good. This is not a sweet spot that he's going to be in. And the worst thing is he has to live this down. He has to live with this for the rest of his life. It'll be in his obituary. His obituary said, well, in 2025, a body was found in the trunk of his car. No matter what happens, guilty, not guilty, whatever the case may be, he's always going to be, this is always going to be a specter that's going to be hanging around his head. And I just want to, just say how, if he did do it, lock him up, throw away the key. If he has any ties to it, if he knows something that other people don't know, let it be known. Snitch, snitch, snitch. Don't be afraid to snitch.
and the ongoing probe. We are going to break down the latest developments in this case and what law enforcement is focusing on next with a retired detective. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The investigation into Houston-born singer David, D4VD, real name David Anthony Burke, continues to widen after the body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found decomposed in a Tesla reportedly registered to him. Authorities are still working to determine exactly what happened here, but the fallout is growing. There's an alleged former teacher of Celeste even coming forward with troubling claims about her connection to the singer, and we're going to get there. But first, we got to look back at what we know when this case first broke. We covered it here on Sidebar, but on September 8th, LAPD officers responded to Hollywood Tow on Mansfield Avenue. And this is after workers reported a foul odor coming from a car. That car was a Tesla with Texas plates registered to David. It had been abandoned in the Hollywood Hills and towed. Inside the front trunk, authorities discovered dismembered human remains wrapped in a bag. The Los Angeles County Medical Examiner identified the body as Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who had been missing from Riverside County since April of 2024. According to reporting from KTLA, the Cybertruck had been there for about 5 days. The medical examiner's office said that Celeste's body was badly decomposed and appeared to have been in the vehicle for an extended period of time. Now, Celeste's cause of death was listed as deferred, but around the time that she went missing in 2024, there were rumors that circulated that David was dating a teen girl named Celeste. This is according to screen captures of messages that were posted in 2023 in chat rooms, namely Discord. Now, Celeste, who had just turned 15 the day before her body was found, was remembered by family as a wonderful daughter.
Son of Son 90 is asking, do you think he could be getting framed? I don't know. I mean, it would sound cute to be like, oh yeah, he's big star, YouTube star. He's got millions and maybe even billions of views. He's going on tour. He's a star in his own right. And we're just gonna put this crime on him, and keep from getting charged ourselves, whoever these people are. I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know if that's even probable. He's quiet. I think he's doing what lawyers are telling him to do, and that's being very quiet. He's not saying he did it or he didn't do it. He's just being very quiet. So long answer is I don't. Short answer is I say no. He's not being framed. I think he knows something allegedly. No one can be that stupid. Well, I can be that stupid. But he better save that money. Yeah, that's true. He's going to need it for the lawyers. If he wants to get out of this, he's going to need it for the lawyers.
Sister, cousin, and friend. Her brother previously told NBC Los Angeles that she disappeared after leaving the family home to see a movie with David. Reports also noted a striking detail, that Celeste had a tattoo on her finger reading shh, and multiple photos showed David with a nearly identical tattoo on his hand. Now, in the past week, both of David's remaining U.S. tour dates, San Francisco and Los Angeles, were canceled, along with at least 9 European shows that were listed on Ticketmaster, including an October 1st stop in Norway. A scheduled Grammy Museum appearance in Los Angeles was also pulled from the venue's website. His label, Interscope, later told TMZ that all promotion for David, including his deluxe album release, was being paused. And David, by the way, was also the face of a new collaboration between Hollister and Crocs. But he was scrubbed from the campaign just days after it was launched, according to the New York Post. Now, a spokesperson previously told NBC News that David was cooperating with authorities, but to be clear, there's no formal arrests. Now, investigators are digging deeper into this case. We are too. And for that, I want to bring on a special guest. I want to bring in Matthew Irvine, who's a retired detective and law enforcement instructor. Thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
So based on your experience, how do police, by the way, when they're dealing with, I wonder if this is a big issue in LA, but how do police deal with prioritizing cases when you have a celebrity, a famous person linked in some way to a crime? How do they deal with that?
Well, ideally, there really shouldn't be any distinction based on the fame or wealth of the person implicated in a crime, whether they be the accused or the victim. In reality, there are always pressures that are brought to bear on investigators, be it from within their agency or from the media or the public. And the challenge for the investigator is to remember, as Harry Bosch says, everybody counts or nobody counts.
This is the first Bosch reference we've ever gotten on Sidebar, and you named it. Okay, when you're dealing with a body, that's as decomposed as this. How do authorities analyze that evidence? How do they handle that evidence? And the idea that this body was severely decomposed, what does that tell you?
Well, it sounds like from the reporting we've heard so far, and again, I don't know anything about this case other than what's been publicly reported. It sounds like poor Celeste was likely in the front trunk of that vehicle for several weeks before her body was discovered. And there's even been reporting that she was dismembered. That certainly presents a challenge for the medical examiner and for investigators in terms of determining time and cause of death. Also raises some questions in terms of why the killer reportedly chose to dismember this young woman. Sometimes a killer will dismember their victim because if they do that and disperse the remains over some space, and particularly if certain body parts aren't found, it makes it harder to identify the victim. Now, people that kill strangers don't usually need to worry about the victim being identified because there's nothing that connects to them. So the only time the identity of the victim is a problem for the killer is if there's some known relationship.
Look, I'm going to say this. I cover crazy stories all day, and I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes it makes me think about myself, my loved ones, family. If something should happen, would my family still be able to cover the big expenses like the mortgage, utilities, the day-to-day bills? Look, I know life insurance, that's not something you want to be thinking about. But the truth is, life is hard to predict, and it's important to start looking for options before anything bad happens, okay? And the problem is traditional life insurance, it always felt complicated and intimidating. There's a lot of paperwork, there's waiting around, sometimes there's medical exams. But with Ethos, it's going to be easier. Ethos is an online platform that
While he's doing this commercial break, I just want to say, David, he's laying in the cut right now. He's talking about not talking. Actually, he's not talking about anything. He's playing it really, close. His cards close to his chest. He's not displaying anything. He's not, reporting. He's not out there in front of cameras. The person I remember out in front of cameras was Tupac. Rocking power to him. Tupac Shakur was out in front of the cameras talking up to people, saying, "Look, I don't remember his exact words, but he was just addressing the cameras directly, either before, during, or after his trial. I can't remember what time frame it was, but he was definitely very." Almost militant, almost like staunch in his address to show that he was innocent. He was found guilty of the groping, I think, a groping charge, allegedly, something like that. But this whole case just reeks, no pun intended, of misjudgment, and sloppiness. Is this whoever it was, they had to have known, okay, chop up her body, put her in plastic, stuff her in a Tesla trunk in the front. And I'm gonna just leave it here, and there's not gonna be a problem. I already put it in plastic. You can't get the smell; won't come out of the plastic. It's like, duh. Whoever did this wasn't that bright. Thank goodness. I mean, I'm glad. I love. If there's one thing I love most, is stupid criminals. And for he or she to place her in a trunk and have her body decompose for 2 weeks, and then a smell obviously going to come, emanate from that vehicle. That's going to be a dead giveaway. It's a dead giveaway. As I can't think of it. Was it Charles Ramsey? What was it? Is it Charles Ramsey? Charles Ramsey. Hold on. Let me make sure I get his name right. He says a dead giveaway. Maybe it's not Charles Ramsey. Yeah, it is Charles Ramsey. I was right. Okay. But that's a dead giveaway, no pun intended. I mean, just It's a horrific scene. That's a horrific thing, for the family. They can't even properly bury, funeralize her. They can only, cremate her remains, I would imagine, or just have a closed. I mean, if they had a closed casket, I think the body would be so decomposed they wouldn't be able to, have a proper funeral and burial. So I think they would just have cremains. That's what I figure anyway. So I'm gonna go back. He's doing a commercial. I'm gonna try. Maybe I can fast forward through this commercial.
In this car, that I wonder, is that something investigators are looking into? How can someone have the ability to do something like this? Who can have the means, the opportunity to do that, right?
Well, we have to kind of keep the Occam's razor principle in mind. I mean, this vehicle was registered to David Burke. It was apparently towed from across the street from a home that he was renting. So the simplest theory would be that this crime happened in or near the vehicle, and likely by David or somebody close to him with access to the vehicle. That said, as an investigator, we have to keep in mind till the investigation is complete and all the facts are in, that we don't know yet all the facts. We need to think about what we don't yet know. And as an investigator, while you want to trust your intuition and the wisdom of your experience and your common sense, we have to remember that just because you did 100 of these cases and it always turned out this way and the answer was X, in this case, the answer could still be Y. So we have to keep an open mind. But certainly there's a lot of publicly available information that seems to point to the involvement of David Burke in the death of this child.
By the way, what causes decomposition and how quickly does it happen?
Decomposition is a natural process once the person is no longer alive, and it's affected by a lot of factors, including temperature and whether the body is protected in some way. In this case, in the front trunk of a vehicle in Los Angeles in the late summer, it's likely that decomposition would happen very rapidly.
I want to get into some of the key updates in this case from the last time we spoke. So, according to Forbes and ABC News, police executed a search warrant at a Hollywood Hills home on September 18th where David had been staying. They seized a computer, they seized other items of evidence. Sources told the Los Angeles Times that David had been renting the home, which the LAPD confirmed to Forbes was on Doheny Place. That's not far from where the Tesla was reportedly abandoned. And Matthew, actually, let's just start there. What does a search like that tell us about where investigators are focusing? How significant is it that they removed electronics and other materials from this property? What does this tell you?
Well, in order to get a search warrant, you need to be able to articulate to a judge that you have probable cause to believe crime has been committed and that evidence of that crime is going to be found in the place that you intend to search. So just because you search somebody's residence or vehicle or other property doesn't necessarily mean that that person is your suspect in the crime. It simply means that that place is likely to have evidence related to the crime. So certainly they had to meet that legal standard in order to execute the search warrant. And I'm sure that in addition to looking for physical evidence, forensic evidence within the residence, as you said, they are seizing electronic evidence. And that's going to be critical in this case. I mean, just from what's already been reported publicly, there seems to be a lot of online communication between people who at least appear to be David and Celeste, going back maybe as far as 2022, when she was 11 or 12 years old. There's also a lot of communication, again, just being posted online between David and other parties that appear to have some knowledge, at least of his relationship with Celeste. So the timeline is going to be really important here. And the electronic record is going to be an important part of that timeline.
100%. And by the way, we also have to mention that while this was going on, deputies in Houston, they also confirmed to Click 2 Houston that they responded twice last week to David's Cypress, Texas home after security alarms were triggered. Now, the property records tie the house to a trust that resembles the name of his debut album, Petals to Thorns. There's no search warrants that have been executed there, which is interesting because, Matthew, how would law enforcement typically treat these kinds of security alerts in an ongoing investigation when you're talking about a different property? Are you surprised that property hasn't been searched yet?
Well, that's the first I'm hearing of this, but it's interesting to think that somebody may have tried to make entry to that property. That could be an effort by somebody to remove evidence that was there. That's the obvious connection to this Los Angeles-based investigation. As to search warrants, again, officer or detective needs to be able to articulate probable cause to a judge that there is evidence of a crime on those premises. And apparently at this point, they don't feel like they've got that.
Now, I want your perspective on this too. So TMZ obtained messages from a Discord moderator that was tied to David's online community. And the administrator insisted that they believed Celeste to be 18 or 19 years old and denied knowing that she was a missing, 15-year-old. Part of the message that was obtained by TMZ reads, "We, the Discord and Twitch staff teams, want to clarify what we knew and didn't know regarding Celeste. We were not aware of her true age or that she was a missing person. We also did not have any contact with her outside of what was made public. From what was shared in David's Twitch streams and from her role in the server, we understood her to be around 18 to 19. Now, it's not clear which administrator made this statement, but Matthew, that's interesting, right?
And that's all I'm going to do for this particular episode. I appreciate Son the Sun 90 for riding with me for a little while. I thank anybody who came in and left. I appreciate you. I should see you sometime tomorrow, and take care.